Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hello, USA Global TV and Radio, and welcome to Talking Heads. My name is MARISKA du PREEZ, and I will be your host today on this show. So on Talking Heads, as you might be aware, if you have seen the show before, we educate in a whole manner of different ways. And today our topic is tips to stop doing everything. Now, I typically work with leaders, and it might be leaders that went from a specialization and stepped into leadership, as well as leaders stepping up within their leadership space. Now, the tips that we are going to be discussing today, you can also utilize back home because it is all about relationships. So whether it is leadership relationships that you are working with, or potentially family relationships where you need to step into leadership, they all have some of these things that we need to take into consideration when we work with other human beings. Now, you can also, if you are so inclined, start using it with friends. Who knows where it might get you throughout your day. So let's start off. And why is it even important to think about? Well, if we are, or when we are stepping into a leadership position, part of that is really around how we support those we lead and being of service to them. Now, if we were to do everything ourselves, we're not really of service to them because they don't get to test out their own skills. They don't get to grow their own muscles. So being of service really means supporting them in a whole host of different ways. Now, we have three things to take into consideration when we think about trying to not do everything and helping to enable others and empower them to start to think about how they can maybe bring more of their superpowers into our space. So, tip number one, which might feel like, oh yeah, duh, is delegation. Now, especially for new leaders, delegation might feel a little bit awkward because one of the things that I get from a lot of my clients is, well, I can do it a lot faster. And I know you can do it a lot faster. That's not the question. The question really is, how am I empowering my team to do it a lot faster? And you doing it versus your team doing it, two very, very different things. So because you are stepping into that leadership space, how will you empower your team to be doing it instead of, well, you doing it? And this might be a little bit frustrating, especially initially, because one of the things that I get, especially with my specialists that stepped into leadership, is that they get really, really frustrated, partially because They already have the answer. They can see how to fix the problem. They are problem solving this thing at lightning speed, and the person that they're leading might not be quite at that level as yet. Now, your job is not to do the thing. Your job is actually to enable them to do the thing. So how do you do that? Well, when you think about delegation, you can first assess where that person might be. Do they need instruction? So is it something that they did before? If it is something that's brand new to them, and they are also brand new to the whole process and system, the team, the organization in all likelihood, then they might need a little bit more from you. So this is really asking them questions to figure out what resources it is that they have not identified yet, and where their thinking might be around how to solve this problem. Now, once we start to ask the questions, we can figure out what it is that they know, what it is that they don't know, and what it is that we need to support them with. And by supporting, it doesn't mean that we are taking the thing out of their hand and doing it for them. It means that we are resourcing them with all the things that they need in order to be successful to do the thing that they need to be doing. This might be pointing them into the direction of who to go and speak to get some other assistance in other places. It might be going with them through their process of problem solving to see how exactly they are doing it and what they are thinking of when they are problem solving, and to also see whether there's anything that they might not have considered that we do see as things that they need to consider. So the questioning, which you will also find a Talking Heads video on if you go back into our history a little bit, is really, really important. So make sure that you understand what questions it is that you will be asking in order to help this person and support them with the relevant resources when you are delegating. Now, it might be that you have a person that's an expert. They're already an expert in their field, and they know exactly what it is that they need to do. So with them, you literally just give them the job and off they go. And they go and do it. Our job then becomes to not interfere. Yes, I know we can do it. We've been doing it. We're really good at it. And they might do it a different way than we do. And that is all okay, because we want to delegate it to them and let them come up with whatever the solution is that they're going to come up with. And we might even find that they're going to pleasantly surprise us. So understanding where our team member or members might be within that span is helpful for us to understand how we are going to delegate this task or the problem that needs solving. So delegation is skill set number one. We also want to determine when we're delegating, what exactly is the boundaries, so to speak, in which we are doing the thing that we are doing. Now, this is also tip number two. We need to be very, very clear when we communicate boundaries. So say, for instance, we are delegating something and there's a time pressure or there's a lot of eyes on it. We want to make sure that we get proper and regular feedback on it. And we want to also ensure that we actually tell the team that is what we need. It does not help if this is something we need and they have no clue that this is something we need, because they will most probably fall into all the typical habits and do whatever it is that they normally do, which means we may or may not get the feedback that we need. So understanding how to actually communicate those boundaries and be clear on what the expectation is. Now, again, when we are communicating the boundaries and expectations, ensure that you ask questions. Why do you want to ask questions? Well, we want to ask questions because we want to understand what it is that they understand. And the only way for us to really understand what it is that they understand, is by listening after asking a question. And no, yes, no questions are not the type of questions that I'm referring to. So we don't want to say, da 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 da, this is the steps. Do you understand? And they just say yes. Because typically you will only get a yes. You want to ask them, okay, in your own words, what's the process that you will be following? And then they will explain to you what the process is that they will be following. If they missed a step, or if there's something that they didn't take into consideration, we do not want to correct the thing that they missed or didn't consider in advice giving. We want to do this in a form of a question. So say, for instance, they missed something, we want to ask them, what about this thing, whatever the thing is that they have missed, might we also need to take into consideration? Because I'm wondering whether that might bite us. And then they can come up with whatever the thing is that they might need to take into consideration. And we give them an opportunity to think about it. This way, we do two things. One, we ensure that they actually have all the steps. And two, we are teaching them to think for themselves and figure out how to solve the problems, which is part of empowerment. So we really, really want to focus on questioning, not giving advice or telling them how to do it. The only time we want to tell somebody how to do something is if it is really, really brand spanking new information to them that they have never had before. And this is things we typically do when we have children in school. The people that you work with are not children. They have some form of life experience, so they will have some form of clue how to do it. The thing is, we need to really teach them how to think for themselves, because I don't know about you, but what I have experienced from my school day upbringing is that there's been a lot of information dumped on me that I had to learn, and not a lot of opportunity to think for myself around how this thing actually works. So by being able to think about how this thing actually works, I create more understanding for myself about it, which also means I get a lot better at problem solving it. And that is the skill we want to build with our team. So boundary setting, and again, we might have a team member that's very experienced. And with that team member, it really comes around the communication, how we want the communication to happen, what boundaries we need within that space, and they will literally go off and do the thing that we need done. So with people that has more experience, it's a lot easier for them to go and do it. It is not necessarily so easy for us to let them go and do it. So in that space, it's more about checking ourselves and seeing, how am I enabling this person? What is it that they might need from me that would help them do their job? And it might be that they need from me to go and lobby with one of the other departments or one of the other family members if we were to bring this into a family space. So that's what they would need. They do not need me to tell them exactly how to do the job, because they know how to do the job. They have done this job a million times before. So that might not be the resource that they require from me. They require something else. And that might also be the something else that I need to learn how to do. So understanding how to set those boundaries and really, really communicating that clearly is extremely important when we want to stop doing stuff all by ourselves. Then the next thing is also around when we're communicating those boundaries, what we also want to be sure that we do is we want to make sure that we communicate the expectations. Now, agreeing on the expectations and what it is that we can and cannot do and in what time frame we can and cannot do this thing is really, really important. Now, one of my leaders used to do the following with our team. Instead of telling us what they thought would be the set of expectations that they would want the task or project to be finished in, they would ask us. Now, of course, I am sure my leader had some idea as to what they had in mind for a speedy finish for whatever the project timeline that they have in mind. They still did not say this out loud. They asked us. And we would negotiate around whatever it is that we came up with as an individual or as a team. So that also had the added benefit of getting our buy-in, as well as this is a date and time that we came up with, not a date and time they came up with. So if we are able to help our team to set those expectations in a way where they come up with whatever the thing is around which we are working, timeframes and all the rest of it, that we need to take into consideration, it is very helpful for them to commit to it. That's really, really what we want, because they will let us know. We can always challenge it. Remember, we can challenge as a leader. That's also part of what we need to be doing. And again, around challenges, if you are wondering about how to challenge your team, we have a little episode on that as well. We want to make sure that we challenge effectively within that space. And it is to ensure that, we know, I know that I used to build in a little bit of fat within my space because I wanted to make sure that I don't overpromise and underdeliver. I wanted to make sure that whatever it is that I am saying that will happen in the time frame or even before the time frame, because that's a lucky surprise, that we agreed upon. I will also be able to then relay any foreseen problems that we might have. So I am able to let my leader know that, we have a couple of people sick, so we might need to get either extra resources in, which means there's a different cost, or we might need to delay this until such time that the people come back, which, of course, if they are sick, is a little bit tricky because we don't always know when that might be. And I also know what other resources I might need in order for us to progress in the way that we said we will progress. So then I have the opportunity to let my leader know these are the other places where they can help me. Now, that was for me. And in saying that, the team might not know that they can ask for resources. So that might be a question you can ask the team. So when you are establishing all those expectations, making sure everybody's on the same page and we know exactly what's going on, ensuring that we also ask the questions around, okay, for this to happen in the way that you just committed to, what is it that you require? So they might need certain inputs from other departments. They might need certain financial inputs. They might need resources from outside of the organization itself. And having that discussion will also help us to clarify on our expectations, because we get to see whether that is actually a possibility and whether that might impact the way that we are going to do the task or project, whatever it is that we are busy with. It also helps us to, at that point, then brainstorm any plan Bs or mitigation that we might need to take into consideration. All of these things go into our expectation setting as well as our boundaries. We get to see what it is that we need to potentially put more boundaries around, because we are having this discussion and an open conversation about it now before anything went wrong. It's a lot easier to see what it is that we require. And it gives us as the leader more confidence that we have this covered. The team knows exactly what it is that they need to do. And I know as the leader how it is that I can support them, which is exactly what we want you to be doing as the leader. Supporting, enabling, empowering. Remember? So now that we have all three of those things sorted out, which is number one, delegating the tasks in order that we don't do them, making sure that we set proper boundaries and communicate them clearly, as well as expectation setting, we can go out into the world and with confidence start to, do less of the doing things and start to do more of the strategy things that we are supposed to be doing. And if you are wondering whether you are doing too much, answer this question for yourself. If you think about everyday tasks, how much time are you spending on it? So if we look at 100% for all three of these categories that I'm going to lay out, percentage-wise, how much are you spending on everyday tasks? How much are you thinking about problems or things that you need to set up for tomorrow? And how much time are you investing in actually thinking about the future? And when I'm saying future, I'm not talking about a year from now. I'm talking about at least 5 to 10 years from now. How are we building in some future fitness for the team? So if you go through that list and you find that you are spending more than 50% on everyday things, you might need to delegate a whole bunch more. Of course, thinking about your position and where you are within the organization, or maybe in your family, you can take the same three categories and think about what the ideal in this specific space actually needs to look like. And then give them a couple of percentages as well, adding up to the full 100 at the end. And see what you find as the difference. This will give you a very good indication as to how much you need to grow your delegation, communication around expectations and boundaries, skill set in total as a leader. And it will also give you a good idea of how much or little time you are spending on strategizing for tomorrow and actually being future fit. And with that, if nothing else, I am sure you will now see that there is still a lot of work to be done, and we can always improve no matter where we are within our leadership journey. I know for myself, it is a continuous process as well. So don't despair. Every step is a step in the right direction, and you will definitely get there. Of course, if there is anything around this or any other leadership related topic that you are wondering about, or you want to get into contact, with me, you are more than willing to do so. So we have the website that you can go and have a little bit of a look. And you can also get hold of me via my email address. So my email address is mariska@journey2discover.com. Or alternatively, you can also get hold of me via my LinkedIn. And yeah, it is nice and easy. You can literally go and write me a little message on the direct message function, and we can start our conversation. As I mentioned, these tips you can freely use as a specialist moving into leadership, a leader moving up in your leadership space, or even with your friends and family. I know they would love to help you, whether it is in the kitchen, the garden, or anywhere else that you might utilize some of their expertise as well. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you and enjoy stepping up within your leadership space. Bye-bye for now.